And welcome to another episode of the Dynasty Mind. We are in episode 11. So it's time to do a little quick mid-season review. I'm going to talk about some of my calls in the off season and how it transitioned through the first half of the NFL season. Nevertheless, every year it's the same. Lots of surprises, lots of unfortunate injuries, and lots of new unexpected players that would just appear out of nowhere. And welcome again, folks, to a new fakepigskin.com feature. If you have any questions, my Twitter and my email is posted in the beginning of the intro. Production is getting a little bit better right now because I'm starting to learn the fascinating world of just working around with video recording software, and this fantastic one I'm using right now is just have everything all in one without me having to download multiple softwares to make this production. As you can see, it's still a little bit elementary, but I am hoping I can get up to a more clean and professional looking video production. I'm still looking for someone is willing to teach me, or someone who's willing to give me some sweet graphics so everything can look great for you. But for today, again, we're gonna have a little bit of a mid-season review. Kind of have you guys start thinking about what you want to do going forward and how you want to continue to shape your dynasty team. Doesn't matter if you're a contender, doesn't matter if you're rebuilding, retooling, whichever status your team is in, it is time to think about what to expect from the remaining half. But first, before we even get to the cold month of November and December, we have to come back to look at September and October. One of the things that a lot of owners do is to make predictions and projections and see how those unfold and see how those play out. Of course, not all calls are created equal. You can be right for the wrong reason, you can be wrong for the right reason, and you can also be right for the right reason typically, and of course you can be also dead wrong. So I'm going to just present to you 5 of each so that it's easier to remember, and hopefully this will help you kind of also shape the way you think about fantasy football, because I believe that this information is not only useful for Dynasty, it can be used for redraft as well. So let's get started. At number 5, one of my good calls in the offseason was that I am not at all worried about Keenan Allen's injury. I know he is still possible that he might get hurt, but from week 1 through 7, he's been a solid low-end wide receiver 1, or maybe a high-end wide receiver 2, however you want to look at it. He's been on the field, he's been consistent. He faced some tough matchups, including no-fly zone, and also the playing against, I believe, the New York Giants, and he continues to produce because he plays all over the field. And one of the things was taking a risk at Keenan Allen is that he has a history of suffering unfortunate injuries, but my conviction is strong that he was not going to be injured by another fluky injury. So far, good news. Fingers still crossed, knock on wood, whatever you may like. There's not even a sign of nagging injury, so this is good for Keenan Allen. The Chargers offense is still not as explosive as you want, but it seems to be hopefully turning around with the addition of Mike Williams, and that hopes to open up some stuff. Tyrell the Gazelle had only a few good games, so it really didn't close out the door for Mike Williams. But my focus is on Keenan Allen. Okay. Number 4. My good call for number 4. I have no idea why these numbers are flipped upside down and whatnot, but we'll make do. But one of my better calls of the offseason was that I did not believe in Isaiah Crowell will be a running back 1. His cost was way too high. I would have liked for him to be a running back 2. Would have paid that price, but so far it's looking like his season is a complete bust, as he's not even running back 2 worthy for 5 of the 6 games that's been played so far. I think one game he actually did have some yardage. I don't know if he had a touchdown yet. I believe so, but don't quote me on that. But in all in all, he would have really cost your team a lot for where you had to acquire him, for how much you had to pay for him, and what he has produced so far. So another guy that I did not think he was consistent at all. I think it was overrated to call the Cleveland offensive line as one of the best, because yes, indeed they had the talent, but coming together as an offensive line takes time. Down the line, hopefully by November and December, if this O line continues to play together, you'll see some better gelling, better run blocking, and hopefully Crowell can recoup some value for you. But I believe going forward, he is a bust. Sell him in the dynasty because it's not guaranteed that he'll be back with Cleveland. And most likely, I'm expecting Cleveland to draft a rookie running back next year and continue to use Duke Johnson in that versatile gadget role. All right, so heading into number 3. My good call of number 3 was Terrell Pryor will not succeed in his new team. It can't be understated or overstated, however you want, overstated how important Hugh Jackson was for Pryor's development, and Hugh had made a very good use of Pryor, making him a vocal point of that passing offense. And for both teams, unfortunately, Browns playing hardball with the contract situation and Pryor not wanting to be paid for what his level of talent is, has ended pretty poorly for both. We sense a theme here, Browns issues, but also Pryor did not exactly show all the magnificent athleticism that he had in the training camp. You see, training camp is very much different from in-game situation, and either Cousins is not looking to him because they haven't really developed that chemistry, or Pryor is just not making plays that he needs to and underperforming across what his talent is capable of. He is on a 1-year contract as well. I am not sure how much the Redskins are willing to re-sign him. Maybe they are willing because Crowder has disappointed as well. Doxson is only scratching the surface. We don't know where he's at completely. But for Pryor, if he is to re-sign with Washington, I think next year will be much better for him. So for now, he is, I don't mind holding on to him if you own him. I also don't mind it if you sell him for a second, mid-second, an early second, maybe. If you can package him for a late first, that would be good too, because I really like next year's class. But all in all, Pryor's year is looking to be very down. Second half will be very telling if they try to involve him more. I will not hedge. I will continue to avoid Pryor for the rest of 2017. Okay, so moving on. Number 2 on the list of my good calls. I think that DeMarco Murray and LaShawn McCoy would not pay off their ADP, and this is maybe a little bit, strictly speaking, more so for redraft, but so far, even in the dynasty realm, when you expect these guys to be performing at a studly level, thinking about how they are continuing their role, we're beginning to see a little bit of a decline. Maybe not a little bit. I'm sure you're not as disappointed if you own McCoy. He's given you a solid floor play with his pass catching ability, but all in all, you're not getting the running back 1 that you hope from either of them. They've given you maybe a good 1 week out of the 6 so far, and Murray is beginning to show signs of wear and tear. Nagging a hamstring will sit with him all throughout the season. And we see Derrick Henry coming in slowly. I still have no idea what the coaching staff is doing, but the run game has not looked good for Tennessee. They're severely underperforming for a great offensive line, a great offensive team of ground and pound. But hopefully by mid-season, we'll see more of Derrick Henry's involvement. But all in all, DeMarco Murray is a falling knife. LaShawn McCoy, I was hoping against all hope that he would rise above the challenge, that he is the only, because he's the only weapon in Buffalo, that he would actually have that higher floor. But so far we're getting a medium floor with LaShawn McCoy. and it's really hard for Buffaloes to be an offensive team with Tyrod also declining with no receiving weapons. All the attention is to stopping LaShawn McCoy. The defense is actually carrying the team, and they're willing to just play a field goal game or a very low scoring game to win. So McCoy is, hopefully, if you can find someone who still banks on his name value or loves him, I would be thinking about trying to move him now before his value continues to fall. All right. And number one call of the offseason that I think that I got right was the headache that is the New England backfield. It is a in the offseason, if you can remember the offseason, you had a lot of touts saying, "Oh, Rex Burkhead's going to be wonderful for this offense. Mike Gillislee, the most efficient running back in statistically speaking." Excuse me. But what we're seeing is a three-headed monster and a spread of production. New England is continuing their offensive juggernaut, but you don't really see it any of the consistency, any predictability as they've done in the past. So I don't know why people ignored that, what they have done in the past. But as you can see, New England's don't care about your fantasy production, don't care about your individual statistics. They want to win in any way they can. And that is, one game they'll use more Lewis, one game they'll use more Gillislee. We see Lewis coming back and regaining his role, but not entirely getting the 20 touches that you need to have an RB1 performance. All of them across the landscape has been capped at a RB2 ceiling. From a week to week, Rex Burkhead has been injured throughout majority of half this season, and that is unfortunate because his pass catching prowess is rivaled that of James White. So it's actually a four-headed monster. I completely forgot about James White. James White is the one that I think paid off where most people had him valued in the off season, but still sometimes you see him being phased out of the running game altogether. But in a PPR league, he still has a great 12-point upside to 15-point upside at times. But the touchdowns will be hard-pressed when they're in the red zone because it's either Gronk, it's Amendola, it's Hogan, Tom Brady himself, it's Dion Lewis, it's Mike Gillislee. You just don't know. So avoiding that headache has really just made lineup decisions easier for me from a week-to-week standpoint. So those are some of the good calls I had in looking so far in half a season. So let's start off with my bad calls. Number 5. One of the bad calls I had was that I thought Jimmy Graham would be fantastic with Russell Wilson. I discarded the slow start of Russell Wilson because most of the slow starts, as most people mentioned, Russell Wilson is that it's due to an injury. It's due to all that offensive line. So those are, in fact, valid, but I've underestimated how Seattle really does not do well in September and October, and even poorer when they're on the road. Jimmy has not exactly gelled, despite all the great things that I heard in the offseason during the training camp. Jimmy Graham has not developed that consistency with Russell Wilson. I'm hoping after the bye week this past week, heading into week 6, heading into week 7, that the team is going to turn around the offense like they usually do, and perhaps we'll see more of Jimmy Graham. But at this point, you'll have to be highly disappointed of where you took Jimmy Graham, where you paid for Jimmy Graham, what your expectations were, and how he'll end up at the year and statistics. It's not pretty, but it's indeed very costly if you had acquired Jimmy Graham where he was drafted, or the trade assets that you gave up to acquire him. Okay, so number 4, one of my bad calls was that Jacoby Brissett has no value at all. I didn't care much for when Indianapolis kind of acquired him to replace Luck, but so far it's looking like Brissett is indeed a serviceable, if not a solid QB2. He has a great floor with his running ability, and his passing is above average. I think he is not a terrible passer. He actually can get the ball to Jack Doyle. He's given T.Y. Hilton 2 major games, and he particularly plays well at home. So you can kind of predict what kind of games when he'll be good, what kind of opponents he'll face, and he'll be usable as your QB2, or if you are still waiting for, or if you have some of the weapons like Dante Moncrief and T.Y. Hilton, you're still highly disappointed of where you got T.Y. Hilton and Moncrief. Of course, they are completely different when Luck's back. But as of today, there is a high probability that Luck may not even see the field for all the relevant fantasy season, and Brissett may just remain the starter for the rest of the 2017 for the Colts. So if you lost Aaron Rodgers, if you have a disappointing quarterback, Brissett might not be a bad choice. And especially in a Superflex 2 QB league, Brissett has to be owned. He is already owned. I wouldn't mind trading some low-end assets just to acquire him if you are in need of a bye-week filler. In a 2 QB league only. In a 1 QB league, forget about it. Just stream whatever. Streaming is wonderful. Still a wonderful strategy to be used. All right. So number 3. Now, I did not think Alvin Kamara would see a great workload, and even if when he did, I did not think that he is any good. Well, egg on my face because Alvin Kamara looks fantastic with his limited touches. The trade away of Adrian Peterson was not expected when we began the season. We saw that it was a possibility that he would be cut eventually, and but still, I did not think Alvin Kamara's role will be that significant when they phased out at Adrian Peterson. Now, half the season in, Kamara looks great for the limited work he has. It looks like a fantastic spell back or a part-time back with Ingram, and he's getting those touchdowns. He's running well. He's making great elusiveness. Those things that I thought it was not translatable from his college film, but apparently I am wrong, and I'm more than willing to admit that he is making people miss. He's playing well. He's fitting well in a professional system, and down the line he will make for a great Tevin Coleman-like kind of running backs, and that is good for both New Orleans and for people who took a chance on him during the rookie draft. All right, number 2. Now, I've never been a Melvin Gordon believer. I mean, I was a fan of his, and I really did think highly of him when he came into the league. But last year, his value was buoyed mainly because he was scoring touchdowns. His running efficiency was terrible. Coming into this year, his running efficiency continues to be terrible, but he's not. I don't see that touchdown regression or the yardage regression because he's getting the volume and workload. He's staying relatively healthy, some nagging injuries, but didn't miss a game. And every week that you started him, he's been a running back 1. He's giving you that running back 1 production. So Melvin Gordon continues to pay off his costs, to pay off his ADP, and looking to do well. He has no competition. Austin Eckler is mainly a scat Danny Woodhead-like kind of running back and doesn't get much of a role. Oliver is not healthy, and Gordon is able to take on the volume for this Los Angeles Chargers. So again, I'm wrong on this one, and I will hopefully be able to correct my mistake. Finally, number 1. This is like one of the biggest bad calls on my part, mainly because my process is to kind of not expect much from rookies that are not drafted in with the premium picks, mainly the first round or the top of the second round. But Kareem Hunt, I did not expect Kareem Hunt to take over for Spencer Ware. I thought at best this year they would split a part-time role, and even then, Kendrick West would be involved enough that Kareem Hunt's role would not be significant. Of course, Spencer Ware went down in right before the season, so I had time to make changes, making my projection different. Projected him for a bigger workload would have been positive for him. Even when I did so, I thought people were overreacting by drafting Kareem Hunt in the third round in redraft, or that they would vault him into a significantly and value wise. But Kareem Hunt actually is the running back one of the season. His yards per carries are fantastic. His production is amazing. He is exceeding anyone's expectations and outplaying all the big name running backs like Fournette, Mixon, Christian McCaffrey. And Kareem Hunt looks to be a stud among all stud running back this year, and even potentially right now he is ahead of Le'Veon Bell, but by the end of the year I don't know if he's going to still be that. But his floor is fantastic because he also is involved in the catching game, and even in games where Andy Reid kind of screw you over as a Kareem Hunt owner by giving the touchdowns to Kendrick West or Anthony Thomas, Kareem Hunt still giving you the running back one production from week to week. Is it sustainable? My bias is telling me no, but I am on the losing side of this already, so maybe my side is more towards the 10% possibility that he doesn't finish the season strong, and 90% that he actually does continue this awesomeness. I love Kareem Hunt. I love his running style. I do have worry at times when he runs without regard for his own body. So those are some of my good calls and bad calls, my top 5 of each. And this midseason is a great time to reflect on that and kind of look forward to what to expect for the remainder of this fantasy season. We have about 7 more weeks of games and 7 weeks for you to either focus on making the best of the values or focus on getting into the playoffs. Once you're in the playoffs, all things go. It's really crunch time, and you feel that along with teams that play there. It's a 1-game sudden death, and anything goes. But this is also a good time to kind of think about what lessons we could learn from our process, not necessarily focusing so much on players, but on our ways of approaching a dynasty football. Some of the lessons that I've learned in this year is do not underestimate rookies' production. We've seen a lot of rookies giving early production. They're in there being useful from time to time. This is especially important for deeper leagues to even trust a guy like Cooper Kupp, who gave you 3 games out of the 6 games where he had good production. Deshaun Kaiser was thrown in. Despite his poor on-field performance, his fantasy output was not that bad for the most part. Tariq Cohen was amazing for the first 3 weeks or so of the fantasy season and could have been used alongside with Jordan Howard. Of course, George Kittle is now a thing. So rookies, don't underestimate the rookies' contribution in early part of the season. A lot of times when we talk about these late round rookies, we kind of have this mindset that that they are more of a long-term investment. They are a project. Of course, there are plenty of projects going forward. There are plenty for every Cooper Kupp you have. You also have an Ish Samora or some other Adam Shaheen. They won't be contributing that early, but be open to the idea that these players can contribute and that you don't fall behind by doubting their role in a team. Another lesson that I've learned is to also not be afraid to take chances on fantasy zombies. We see Buck Allen having a great early year contribution. Alex Collins, which I've written off completely after last year, but now seems to be very efficient. He fumbles a lot, but his running is very efficient and may overtake Buck Allen soon for the 2-down job. we see Vernon Davis still heavily involved. He's not dead. He's actually outplaying Jordan Reed, who is still has a has an injury. But despite that, even when Reed was active, we see that Vernon Davis continues to make those big plays. So for a tight end, that is fantastic. You only need the yards. You can't count on consistency, but you just take whatever it's given again. McKinnon, one guy that I've always written off. I'm sure Hilal is enjoying his victory lap around me, McKinnon, but I still stand by that if Dalvin Cook didn't get injured, McKinnon is probably not useful. But as we can see now, he's going to be the lead back for the Vikings. So those are some of the things that we have to be open to the experiences. Even though our calls are right, none of these players should have been drafted highly or drafted early, so they should have been stashes more so, and you shouldn't be overpaying for them anyways. They still have a role that you have to be reacting to, right? You don't overreact by giving a first round pick or a second round pick for these guys before they even broke out, but their role in the offense is there, and you have to be willing to try to acquire them before they repeat that, or in my case, my process is to just take the L and move forward and not even try to acquire it. So this is a good time to kind of look into what we can expect. One of the things that will help you formulate your team, how you're looking forward to certain players that we see that may be helpful to you, whether you're a redraft, whether you're a contender. What can you expect going forward from week 7 on? You need to make predictions like I did, or like you did during the off season. Are there players whose roles been hampered by injuries or haven't gotten their chance yet to get on the field? You're looking at players that the teams will decide their participation, or in other words, the teams that may be seeing that they have no chance in the playoffs and might roll out with the younger guys, or injuries have hit hard on the starters, and now other depth players will kind of get a chance to slide into that role and hope to contribute. And major injuries that needs to be looked forward to, that you need to react to. Sorry. So the players that I'm monitoring for the rest of season, it starts with Tyler Lockett. He has a up and down first half, never cracking more than 12 points, I don't think, in a PPR league. But he has plenty of talent. I think he's healthier than he was last year. And with the surge of the Seattle offense, I'm hoping to see several good weeks out of Tyler Lockett, and I still believe in his talent. So that's my conviction. Second, Aldrick Robinson is beginning to intrigue me. One being that he has all the athleticism. He's not a very good wide receiver when it comes to his hand-eye coordination. I've seen him drop easy passes, but he probably has the most practice with CJ Beathard, who is now the announced starter for the 49ers. And when Pierre Garçon commands all the attention and Beathard is throwing balls that sails way too high in the middle of the field, Aldrick Robinson is the one that is coming down with them. He has great body size. I don't expect a consistency from him, but it's intriguing, and he's near free. Nobody believes in his talent, but someone who's worth monitoring. Kenny Golladay. Golden Tate is slated to be out several weeks, so this really hurts the Lions offense altogether. So it's now time for Golladay to step up to see increased targets. He hasn't been healthy as of yet, but after this bye week, I think he'll be healthier. Marvin Jones will probably still be that downfield intermediate threat, but Kenny Golladay could be could have a role in this offense. But the slot role will be interesting because that's where Golden Tate makes his production the most, and neither Marvin Jones nor Golladay are there, but you still expect the targets to shift to Golladay. Perhaps Matthew Stafford can have some Calvin Johnson nostalgia by throwing up to Galladay, who I've seen can come down from contested balls. Another name to kind of monitor or maybe even stash right now is Bryce Butler. We've seen several big plays. He's similar to Aldrick Robinson. We've seen Dak Prescott pass to him on deep plays, broken plays, improvisation plays. But it seems like Bryce Butler has outplayed Terrence Williams by a significant margin on film. The targets will increase, hopefully, as you get down through the line. And he could become that second wide receiver that Dallas so desperately need on the outside. They still have Cole Beasley, of course. John Ross, he's one of my favorite wide receiver that I really am looking forward to see his contribution. He's been injured from week 1 through 6, never been healthy. Came back a little too early and kind of messed up that chance. But I hope Marvin Lewis isn't an idiot to not use his first round draft pick. I like John Ross better than I've liked Will Fuller or Philip Dorsett, even though they're made in the same mold. I think John Ross has a better route running and a better techniques. But again, injury has stopped him from being there. So going forward, if teams are going to start giving all the attention to AJ Green and John Ross is healthy, which looks like he will be active this next game, hope to seeing some good games from John Ross. Also others to monitor: Corey Davis, Mike Williams, Corey Coleman, the forgotten man with a broken hand. He should be coming back soon. Mike Williams is already back. Haven't gotten much workload, but expected to ramp up. Corey Davis still nursing a hamstring injury. I expect him to be back after the bye week, and he's going to be a major part of the Titans' attacking receiving corps, because nobody right now on the Titans receivers are standing out. They're all wide receiver 2s, but Corey Davis can be that wide receiver 1. So those are the players that I'm looking forward to. What are some of your players? Tell me, tweet at me. And hopefully we'll be able to just, sharpen your dynasty process. Hope you have a great rest of season. Next week I'll be back for more discussion of how to shape your dynasty mind, develop a process, and create a wonderful team. I'll put up my contact information again if you ever need to reach me. It's FFDynasty, and my email is ffdynasty101@gmail.com. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week. Good luck in week 7, and hope you have a great fantasy year.